Hey guys, just thought I would say apologise for the delay because with New Year's Eve coming up, and that's what I'm going to try and do now. Is I'm going to try and upload each chapter every day. That way, my book's finally out there, and yeah, and also like if anyone out there, which I know there are people listening to this, is enjoying my book, thank you so much. And if anyone has any suggestions, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and give me some criticism if it comes to it. Please do. Also, yeah, so let's begin. Chapter 13, A Confrontation with a Boisterous Bully. I always look at my last 2 years of secondary school life with great fondness. I noticed that my popularity was soaring, and apart from my social circle, I had become more accepted amongst other people in my year. This might not seem like a huge feat to achieve, but bear in mind I was a complete nerd, and being a nerd, especially in them days, was still kind of seen as taboo. But I do believe that my wit and my irreverent sense of humour saved me. If I had to use also yet another Game of Thrones analogy, especially considering I had used one for the Red Root class, just imagine a more autistic, more clumsier version of Tyrion Lannister. Then you have a rough idea of what I was like at school. Not so much the planning and scheming aspect of his character, but the similarities was more to the point of Tyrion knew of his limitations, set in the hostile world that was Westeros, like I knew mine, and used this self-awareness to the point of becoming an advantage. So towards the end of my tenure of school, I was widely perceived as a quirky but funny nerd. However, despite this surge in popularity, little did I know. Sorry, it's because I looked up then, I just lost where I was. Yeah. Despite this surge in popularity, little did I know that this newfound territory was not without its obstacles. If I was rising in popularity, sadly, someone was falling from the good graces of what was considered popular. A loud, boisterous woman in my ear named Abigail. Now, despite all this, I still remained with my friends who stayed by me since day one, who, to be fair, a lot of members in my social circle, in their own rights, have become quite popular for various reasons. But one fateful day in a certain science lesson would give me memories that I will probably take to the grave. See, with me, double science wasn't exactly a lesson I resented, but it didn't exactly fill me with excitement. When I knew it would be my next lesson, I wasn't exactly overjoyed. See, I was the only member in inverted commas, as we call ourselves, Danny's crew, as it were. That was in my class, it was just me. But I wasn't exactly without allies. I noticed a classmate named Carlo, and he had decided to take a liking to me. And we seemingly got on well, and not to mention the woman with dark hair who I previously mentioned I had a monumentous crush on. She was also in this class. So I would talk to her now and again. So this class wasn't exactly without its perks. However, Abigail was also there. Now, to try and give you some an amount of subtext, because admittingly Abigail was such a strong character, whenever she would walk into a room, it would always create an atmosphere. Not necessarily a toxic environment, but imagine the opening scenes in Jabba's palace from Return of the Jedi, and you pretty much got the vibe. And unfortunately, I have to say, she would sometimes go out of her way to make me feel uncomfortable. If she was Jabba in Jabba's palace, imagine me as C-3PO, feeling completely out of his depths. I don't imagine admitting this, I don't mind rather admitting this now, but I was absolutely terrified of her, with her loud, intimidating mannerisms. However, one fateful day was a day I doubt she would forget easily, not at least for a very long time. The science teacher had forcibly moved me away from Carlo, as in the teacher's words, I was too disruptive with him, and sat me next to Abby. I was petrified. I remember sitting down when she immediately looked down at me with hateful eyes. And there I sat completely awkward, nervous as hell. If memory serves, the first half of the lesson seemingly wasn't too bad. Yeah, sorry, I just lost where I was. Sorry. She didn't seem to acknowledge my existence to my joy. I remembered looking at a textbook, pretending to do work. Then all of a sudden, as I looked up, with a faint but horrible, but probably a terrified expression on my face, I heard a voice. It was hers. Look at the state of your handwriting. At first I was confused. She had all the looks and mannerisms of Miss Trunchbull, who constantly expressed a desire to hurt me, and now all of a sudden give me a telling off like a mother would. Can you honestly say you're proud of this work, Anthony? This was getting weirder and weirder. Not only was she starting to sound like my mother, she's now using my first name. So I replied very sheepishly, people usually call me Irvine. She scoffed. I do know. But after her brief counselling session, her snide comments had become more and more intense. It wasn't until she made a passing remark of the fact I was currently growing up in Kerr that before I realised I had reacted. Who the hell do you think you are? Someone had shouted. But then I noticed everyone in that classroom, including the teacher, looked at me. And then to my realisation, it was me who said it, who shouted. And before I could stop myself, I carried on. You sit there, you make horrible comments about my upbringing. Look at yourself, caked in makeup, covering more spots than there is craters on the moon. My eyes widened. I couldn't believe what I was saying. I tried to stop, but my mouth kept going. Look at yourself. You look like someone who should be on the Jeremy Kyle show. You look about as rough as a butcher's dog. And when I finally managed to stop talking, after what seemed like forever, she finally reacted. How dare you? You can't talk to me like that. I'll be waiting for you outside the school gates. After I've made phone calls, you're in deep shit. She began looking for her phone, searching her pockets. And then I realised this new act of defiance wasn't over yet. I whipped out my phone and gave it to her. Here, you can call your big brothers, your cousins, the Blues Brothers. You can even give the Ghostbusters a ring for all I care, as I could not give a shit. The entire classroom had become overwhelmed with laughter. Enough, the teacher yelled. After that lesson, it was lunch break. Me and Abby got told to stay behind. I couldn't remember exactly what had been said, but I do remember after 10 seconds of leaving the classroom, Abby decided to chase me around the science department. I remember thinking and knowing where my friends would be at break time. I felt an urge and a need to be surrounded by people. I keep losing my place. But yeah, I felt a need to be surrounded by people that I considered friends. I ran to the other side of the school where I would see a huge group of people hanging outside one of the entrances, seeing familiar faces from my social circle, knowing it had recently gotten bigger as we sort of joined up with yet another social circle that would have a habit of hanging outside the English department known as C Block. And all of a sudden there were those facial expressions, as it were, became confused. Ollie, Josh and Carl's face wondering as to why I was running. Then everyone looked back and saw Abby's face squint her eyes as she looked ahead. I explained to various people at that break what had happened. I distinctively remember queuing up with Alex to get food, while Danny with his rugby ball asked what happened. But before I could answer, Alex answered for me. That silly bitch Abby giving Irvine a hard time. If I have anything to do with it, she won't do it again. I started to feel a bit silly at that point. I was scared of her, but everyone else seemed to dismiss her. But if one thing was for sure, I put my faith in my best friend, Alex, and I was not disappointed. Hope you enjoyed that chapter. I apologise for losing my place a couple of times, but as always, I will try to upload the next chapter tomorrow. Dancing Bear out.